redefining what love is.
Mhm.
You can have love in your heart, but if you can't love somebody the way they need to be loved, you will never be connected to them. And that is like a really hard truth.
Yeah.
And like you can love someone, but if you're not connected to them, you don't have much. Hi, I'm Jen.
Hey, I'm Suzanne.
And Suzanne and I are here laughing today because we just recorded the entire episode. And I realized that my microphone was not in front of me, it was in my passenger seat. So, just some of the trials and tribulations of being new podcasters here. Anywho, today we are talking about loving people the way they need to be loved. And this is so close to my heart because I had no idea that this massive piece was missing from my life. And it was such a significant puzzle piece to my healing journey and to connection, which we all know connection drives me. So I just feel so powerful about it. And Suzanne and I have had so many discussions about it. And I truly believe that there's this huge missing gap. Like part of the reason that there's such a lack of connection in the world and within families is because somewhere along the line, we have been told that however you believe love should be, and that's whether where you grew up in your own house, like we'll talk about that, or society or movies or whatever, that's the right way to love. And so as long as you're doing what you believe is the right way to love, then that should be enough. And why should anybody question it? So I don't know. Have you ever felt that way?
100%. Well, and
Yeah.
it's like, so you grow up, and I feel like it's like when you go to a sleepover for the first time and
Mhm.
you go to someone else's house and you see how they interact,
How
and
they
you're
live.
like, oh, that's different than us. Oh, and then you go to college.
Everything's different.
Yeah, and like it's like the first time you start, I tell my kids this a lot because it's like then you start to like see, oh, wait a minute. I've made all these assumptions about how life should go, and they're not all correct. And wait a minute, it starts to get you like questioning yourself. But I don't think most people question, I certainly didn't, like how you're supposed to love someone else. I think that
Yeah.
that is something like either, like we said, like in a movie, like the men come and like the rich billionaire comes and wines and dines you, or like the Prince Charming comes and, comes and
And they
saves
just
you with a
know.
kiss, and they
They
just
just know
know.
they just know your every desire and your every whim, and they're just, I
Yes.
mean, they should just know. If they truly love you, they should just know.
Yes, and then you end up, as you grow up, like, feeling, like, unloved, and this is for me, I
Totally.
felt like, "Well,
Mhm.
why doesn't he love me better? Like, why do I feel lonely? Why do I feel like we're not connecting?" And
Mhm.
then it becomes as a pattern of mine, which is villainizing him because my husband,
Yeah.
like, "How do you not know how to love me better? Like, no one takes care of me." And yet, not once have I ever communicated to him and said, "Hey, honey, like, this is what I need from you
Mhm.
to feel loved." And it's like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah. Huh? Huh? So there's two questions, and we're going to go through both of them. The first question is you have to ask people. This counts for your husband, your kids, and obviously kids you need to be observing because they can't express themselves. But
Well,
it's this. Oh, go
and
ahead.
partners, let's not, yeah, often we
Yeah.
don't know what
Yes.
we want. So
Yeah.
observe your partner as well.
Yes. Yes. So just observing everyone. And then, so the question to yourself is the question for others is first, have I ever even asked myself if I'm loving people the way they need to be loved? Have I
Mm,
ever held myself accountable for that? And it's a belief you need to have. And you should have that belief because if you truly are seeking connection and you truly want people to feel the love that you're seeking, then you have to give that. And in order to give that, you have to know what they want. So first you have to go to your partner and say, hey, what would make you feel loved and cared for? And don't get frustrated if they don't know, by the way.
yeah, I'm still working on it myself. Like, still trying to
Yes.
figure out what it is, like, because it changes, right? And so I
Yeah.
think it's natural, and it's not a question any of us have ever been asked before. I don't think most
No.
people in the world have been asked, "And how can I best love you?" Like, they'd
Yes.
be like, "Wait, what?"
And make you feel cared for, right?
Yeah.
And then for instance, and there's obviously like the love languages or whatever, and a lot of
Sure.
people are familiar with that. And so I feel like that's a good gateway to
Yeah.
figuring this out. But like my husband would say, like, I like physical touch. And, so what he would say to me all the time was like, "Well, you don't kiss me and hug on me and sit next to me." And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't mean I love you. Like, I would be defensive. Like, that's not what love means. Like, that's just what you want, but that's nothing to do with me loving you. Hello. That is how he needs to be loved. And while that is uncomfortable for somebody who's not a physical touch person, it doesn't make him wrong and me right. It means I need to get uncomfortable and make an effort to love him in a way that makes him feel loved and cared for. So then the kids, right? So, like, my daughter, she is very similar to me, but very different. So when she wants physical touch, she will come and seek it from you. She will come for a hug. She'll come sit next to you. She'll come lay her head on your lap. But if you come in hot to her for a hug because you need physical touch, you will be met with like a stiff board who's kind of like, I don't want this.
Like her mom.
Maybe. And so the funny thing is my husband will get so offended because guess what, guys? We just discussed it. He's a physical touch. So when our daughter, quote unquote, rejects him or denies him the reciprocal physical touch, he thinks it's a slight to him because that's not the way she needs to feel loved. That's the way he needs to feel loved. So she does. She comes over and she gives him hugs and she knows that that's what dad wants. And so when she feels like that's something she can give, she does. And so I am constantly saying to him, you have to accept her love when she gives it to you the way you need it, but you can't expect her to feel the same way. So what she loves is she loves quality time.
Mm-hmm.
And so occasionally, like many teenagers, if you go up to say goodnight or check in, they're like, come in, come in. And it's like the best invitation of your life because you know they're about to open up. It's no doubt at midnight, a time you wish you were in bed,
Always.
but it doesn't matter. It is when your teen has said, come in, come in. And then she's ready to bond and tell you all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband leaves those conversations feeling so full, but he leaves full because he was able to connect with her. They had a connection, but he doesn't realize he was loving her the way she needs to be loved, like on her timeline, on her stuff, right? And it's having the grace to realize that, like, we're not going to reciprocate each other's exact love. It's just the goal is to reciprocate, like, this is how you like to be loved, and I'm going to make an effort to give that to you because I love you and I want connection with you. And in return, you're also going to love me the way I need to be loved. Which brings me to my second question, which is the hardest one for me. How do I want to be loved? How do I want people to care for me? How do I want people to show me love? Which you would think would be a super easy question. But for me, it was completely blank, which is why I was saying earlier, like, Jason was trying to, I guess, I thought he should just be my prince in shining armor where I give him no information. There's nothing in my brain for him to even read my mind because I just knew how to be upset that I wasn't feeling cared for and loved and connected. Oh,
he was doing the exact same thing, right, that you were doing, which is he's trying to love you in the way he knows, thinking that it's going to make you happy. And like you both end up unsatisfied and feeling alone and angry that like you're not getting what you need. But no one's talking about the intentionality that's required to say, like, well, how do I want to be loved? And how does he want to be loved? And it seems so simple. But I think it's one of those, like we talk about, it's invisible because no one's talking about it. And yet it's such a powerful thing in any relationship. And especially like those close relationships with your partner and your kids. I mean, that's huge.
It's huge. Yeah. And coming from like the connection piece, it's like an epidemic. Because there's just like so many of the problems, at least when I look around, is that people don't feel connected. They don't feel connected in their own house. They don't feel connected with their extended family. They don't feel connected in in their community. Like there's just no connection. And so they don't feel like they belong anywhere. They don't feel like anyone truly cares about them.
Well, and I just want to pause right there because for all of my gold star chasers who might seek kind of like make things happen, like activities and things like that, and that whereas connection is the second part of that, everything that you just described is how I felt for a very, very long time. I was achievement based and I had achieved all of these things, but I felt alone without that connection and I didn't understand why. And it was just like, wait a minute, I've achieved all of this. I don't understand. So that I think everything you said was just so powerful to me about the lack of connection with your community, with yourself. And that if we're talking about where do you start, because otherwise that feels very overwhelming. Like, what do
For
you mean? I'm
sure.
just supposed to connect with everyone now, Jen? Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
And so to me, that's so powerful to say to yourself, start with you. Like, how do I want to be loved? And how can I communicate that to someone else? And how does my husband or my partner or my kids? So I just wanted to
Yeah.
stop you because that was like really powerful when you said that. And I feel
Yeah.
like I was overwhelmed originally. And to just start with, what do I need? And then how
Yeah.
can I communicate that so someone could actually, oh, I don't know, give it to me?
Yeah. What a what a concept. I know, right? And I do think that husbands and men in general, like, what do you want? You know, like
Yes.
every famous movie is like, what do you want? Like, I'm thinking of like the Notebook. He's like, tell me
Yes.
what you want, you know, like he's so mad. And I feel like Jason said that to me a million times. Like, what do you want? And instead of turning inwards and being like, acknowledging, I don't know what I want. Like, I don't know
Hmm.
what I need. Like, I might think I know what I want, but like, is that really what I need to feel loved and cared for? And then really sitting down with yourself and writing down, like, what makes me feel loved and cared for? And sometimes it's things you've never experienced, because if whoever you were raised by and whoever you're with don't have the same love and needs, then they have never been able to give it to you. So you may have never even experienced it, if that makes sense. Like when you're
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
oh, that makes me feel loved and cared for. So what I started doing is like, what things, little things all the time, right? Because it's not these grand gestures. That's not life. It's little things constantly. And so what I have started saying to Jason as I'm on this discovery, because it's not like I sat down one day and was like, oh, I know exactly how I need to be loved and cared for. So hear me when I say, like, this is still an ongoing thing. And so what I say now is, hey, babe, that made me feel so loved and cared for. Do you know how good it feels, Gold Star Chasers, but everyone, when someone tells you that made me feel so loved and cared for? You're like,
I feel it
I'm
even
so
right now.
happy.
I'm like,
Yeah, like
oh,
you're like the so it helps both of you connect, because
yeah.
you're able to acknowledge that, like, oh, this is okay, this is something I need. And in the moment you're telling your partner or your kid or your friend, like, you made me feel so loved and cared for, thank you. And then that's a signal to the other person of like, well, I'm definitely doing that again because that felt fantastic.
Right.
And then it opens up the communication for people to say that back to you, like, hey, that made me feel so loved and cared for. And so what's interesting is now it's probably been 2 years since we started doing this. Yes, we've been married for a very long time. And just 2 years ago, we started this. My daughter says, that made me feel so loved and cared for. My son says, not as much, he's younger, but he'll say, oh, that made my heart happy or whatever, right? And my husband says that. So we all are starting to use that language, and it's so reciprocal and it's so bonding and connected, and people want to feel that feeling. Whether you're the giver or the receiver, that
Sure.
feeling just very much similar to how you talk about your sparked, like the sparked mom, like it lights a fire. It has
Hmm.
really lit a fire of connection in our house, and it's now going out to you, like, you know, even as like in the moment of like somebody going through something, like, what do you need from me right now? And it's
Hmm.
not a like, what can I do for you? That's a very different, right? And then it's like with friends, like, hey, I just wanted to send you this whatever. And then I just had this other thought. So I was at a women's conference this past weekend, and my daughter and I went, and the whole theme of the women's conference was love letters. And everyone thinks a
Oh,
love letter should be between, right? In the olden days, you would write love letters to
sure.
each other. But what I really found powerful is that letters are connection. It's
Yeah.
expressing like a love and a care and like pointing out the things that you really love about people. And whether you do that in writing, of like writing a love letter to your, you know, your husband, writing a love letter to your kids, writing a love letter to your friends, and that in this day and age can be a quick text. It can actually be a handwritten card, like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, send a handwritten card, or a handwritten letter, like in the mail, or send a longer email, or I don't know. But it made me just, when I was sitting there and being like so tied to connection, I'm like, Yes, like people aren't spending time. We're so busy, we've forgotten the art of spending time to let people know like how much they mean to you. And it's not compliments, it's you mean this to me, or compliments that are really like into their soul. Like, I love the way you handle this, blah, 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 blah. I'm so in awe of you and I want to learn from you. Or I don't know, just like anything. And so I think just the idea of loving people, but truly loving and changing, like we always say, redefining what love is.
Mm-hmm.
You can have love in your heart, but if you can't love somebody the way they need to be loved, you will never be connected to them. And that is like a really hard truth.
Yeah.
And like you can love someone, but if you're not connected to them, you don't have much.
Yeah. And I think from the husband's perspective or the partner's perspective, how often do you hear it? Like, I want to be a good husband. Like, you married this
Yes.
person for a reason.
Yes.
You're choosing to spend the
Yes.
rest of your life with them for a reason. And I feel like as women, we tend to take this thing like, oh, like we said, like you villainize them or whatever. And so what a beautiful thing to be able to share. And then again, now you're telling them, and who doesn't want praise? And kind of like what we talked with in Sparked Mom, that you start looking for those opportunities. Like now you've gone from someone who's having to like, because it's uncomfortable at first, right? You may feel like, okay,
So,
this seems like
yeah,
love,
it feels
like,
weird.
okay, I'm loved and cared for,
Yeah.
like, okay. But then you start to do it, like with anything, it becomes more normal. And then you build on it. And with time, then you start looking for opportunities to make someone else
Yes.
happy. And all of a sudden, or make
Yes.
yourself feel good or loved, or making your children feel loved. And then, like you said, then the reciprocation starts to happen. And it just, it spreads like wildfire. And pretty soon
It
now you're
does.
doing it in your community and with friends. And like, and now you have all this connection and love in your life. And you're looking around being like, whoa. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And P.S., nothing changed. Like
Yeah.
your physical, like nothing changed.
You're
as
doing it
far as,
in the
like,
life that you're
Yes.
currently living. You're not having to go
Yes.
out and create this new life of connection.
Yes.
You already have the
Yes.
people you want to connect with. And you can start just like with us, like you start in your insular family. And but really you start with yourself. Like
Yes.
I will oftentimes tell Greg, like, I don't say love and care for. I'll be like, that was awesome. Like, I so appreciate that you do that for me, or that you loved me
Right.
in that way, or that, you know, because similarly, he's very like hands-on, appreciates like touch. And very similarly, like that was not necessarily my thing. But I'd say in the last couple of years, I'm much more inclined to go sit next to him, just like he's
Yes.
much more inclined to sometimes give me space. And I think, or like acts of service or words of affirmation, like that's my jam. And I think that 5 love languages has opened up the original conversation, but I feel like that was a long time ago now. And so it's a good opportunity for our friends listening to reopen that conversation, but start with yourself. Because I bet you anything, your partner really wants to know how to love you well. And if you can give them the keys to the kingdom, they're going to pick them up. And everyone's going to feel happier and feel more loved and cared for. And you're going to connect more.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So I think the takeaways, and I think we've kind of covered them, but they're the 2 big questions is, you know, are you loving, like, are you truly loving people the way that's the key word, they need and want to be loved? And then, hey, friend, how do you want to be loved? Like, take some time. Like, this stuff requires intention and it is not unproductive. This is so productive because you can withstand. The reason I love connection so much is it does not matter what happens around you. If you have true connection, you literally are so resilient. You are resilient to everything. And that's why I'm so passionate about connection. So it is not unproductive, people. I promise you, you will feel like a completely different person if you start seeking connection in your life. Those are like my huge takeaways.
Yeah. And so I think the question today is just starting with, how do you want to be loved and cared for?
Yes.
Just start there. Because then, like we said, you can hand it over to them and then you can start figuring it out for everyone else. But also, if you figure it out for yourself, you're also going to give them like a template. Because when you ask someone, that's a pretty broad question. So if you can give them a template of, hey, this is how I want to be loved, then they can start figuring out how they want to be loved and kind. Well, that's it for today.
I hope you learned something in my stories.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.